Well, let's go ahead and start. Good evening. This is the June 14th City Council briefing. We have a handful of items to go over with City Council this evening. The first item that we'd like to talk about is the Auditor Selection Committee. And we do have Ashley Gossett, our CFO, on the line to walk you through what this issue is and what we are asking of City Council. Ashley, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good evening, Council. I wanted to come forward and talk to you all today about the Auditor Selection Committee. For those of you on Council that were here last year, this was an agenda item about the same time in 2020. The state statutes have changed, and when you do an RFP for audit services, staff members may no longer be part of the selection committee, and a member of the governing body must be part of the committee. So our contract for auditing services is expiring, and we need to issue a new RFP. But in advance of that, we need to form an auditor selection committee. So I'm here tonight seeking your guidance about how you want to form that committee. In the memo that was sent out to council, there's a discussion about what the composition of the committee should be, and it has to have at least 3 people. At least one person must be part of the governing body and has to chair the committee. The employees may serve in an advisory capacity, but may not vote on the recommendation for the services. And it's recommended that everyone on the committee have a basic understanding of governmental financial reporting. So I also tried to outline what the committee responsibilities are and what the timeline of the services are. It's expected that this was something that we would need to engage in during the fall. You know, if we could get an RFP, that if we could get the committee together in July, get the RFP out in August, and then September, October, the committee would evaluate the respondents and then make a recommendation to council by December. So it's looking about like a 5-6 month commitment on behalf of anyone who served on the committee. And the responsibilities of the committee are to establish the factors for the evaluation of the different audit respondents, to publicly announce the proposals, but that's something staff would do on behalf of the committee, and evaluate the qualified firms who respond to the RFP, and then rank the firms and make the recommendation to the whole governing body for the RFP award. It's expected that this committee would only need to be formed for this sole purpose. And if we have a successful award, we would dissolve the committee and then reform it, 5 or 6 years down the road when the current or the new audit contract would come to an end. So we laid out a couple different options for how to structure this committee, and this is where I'd like your feedback. The committee can be formed of only the council, the entire governing body, or 3 volunteers from council. Or you can opt certain council members in if someone wants to volunteer on it and you want to do a mix of the council and people from the public, or if you want to do the entire council with members of the public. So we did a little research about how other cities our size are kind of forming their committees. And I'm seeing that most cities that are about our scope are keeping the committee to about 3 members. And I do see a mix of the governing body with members of the public, or just the governing body as the 3 members. So the question that we have for you is is the council agreeable to forming the committee of just the 3 council members and who might want to serve on it? Or did you want to explore bringing folks from the public in?
And I'm not seeing any council members' hands raised. So I'm not sure if you have any comments or questions for Ashley, or if you all just love the idea of having 3 of you volunteer to be the audit committee selection.
I'm good with having 1 person from the council do it and bring in 2 other people, maybe people from our sitting on current boards that have a little bit of that background.
That is one option. Any thoughts on that by the rest of council? Councilor Stokes.
So I don't have any experience in this field, but if it's another council member is needed, I'll volunteer. I mean, it's a good thing to learn. It probably isn't the way to learn being on this selection committee, but you got to do it somehow, right? So if need be, I'll throw myself to the wolves for this one. But I think having more qualified people is definitely the way to go.
Counselor Jansen.
I feel the same as Chet, that if you need a volunteer, I wouldn't mind volunteering. However, I don't know that I have the pedigree for it, but I'm willing to volunteer. Do you know what kind of lift this is? Is this weekly meetings or is this monthly meetings? Do you know what this would be like by chance?
So I can give you kind of an estimated timeline. So the committee would be formed and we would have a meeting to determine the evaluation criteria. And I think that can be established in one meeting. And then the staff would send the RFP out on behalf of the committee. So the next time the committee would meet, it would be to receive all of the RFP responses and to begin your own evaluation. And it takes some time, but you could do that on your own time to evaluate each of the responses. And then the committee would come back together and kind of rank them in preferential order. And most likely for this kind of service, you would want to interview the firms. And so you might want to pick the top 2 or 3 candidates to interview. So that would probably be another 2 or 3 meetings. And then at the conclusion of the interviews, you would want to meet again and do another ranking and form your evaluation to the or your recommendation to the council. So it can be anywhere from like 5 to 10 meetings, depending on kind of the responses and the level of questions that you all might have.
Any other thoughts or suggestions by council? Mayor Hoffman.
I was going to say, since we have 2 just such willing volunteers, that maybe we do 2 council members and 1 member of the public who might have some expertise in this area. I don't think it would be that hard to find someone.
I like that
Maybe.
idea. That way Chet and I could work together on it instead of with, I don't want to say strangers, but we have some familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, did I hear you right that both you and I guess, AJ being involved in the budget process, neither of y'all could be on the committee with us?
So we will sit with you and we can act in an advisory capacity. And so if you have any questions, we'll be there to provide answers and give you some context for some of the things. But we can't vote on the recommendation, but we will participate in the process to kind of walk through some of the finer points of government accounting that other people might not find as interesting as us.
Well, I've got Harry Royal on my street, so if I need to, I can walk down the street and ask him some questions.
You might know a thing or 2 about this.
Councilor Golding.
I seem to recall that we have a few board candidates that had some financial background that we might want to reach out to and see if they would be interested in serving on this committee. So that might be how we would identify somebody from the public.
So is council liking the idea of 2 elected officials and 1 member of the public? I see heads nodding. Ashley, I think you have a consensus on which direction to go. Any other final questions or comments for Ashley before she embarks on the audit committee process?
If we have anybody that might be eligible, should we just send them over to Ashley, or?
Yes,
Well, Ash-
from a process perspective, will council need to take a formal vote on who they will be appointing to be the 3rd member of that committee?
Yes, so what we'll do is we'll put together the resolution formally forming the audit committee. And if you put forward your names, council can vote at the same time that they adopt the resolution. You all can decide who you want your 3rd member to be. So we can handle the third member and forming the committee in one council agenda item.
So that will be probably on the second meeting in July. It puts you a little behind timeline. Is that going to be okay?
Yes, I think with that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this topic? If not, Ashley, you've got your direction. Thank you on this item. What I'd like to do on the next items, I'd like to do item number 2 last, which is consideration of city name change, and maybe do items 4 and 3 first in that order, if that's okay with council. So what I'd like to do is jump down to item number 4, which is in regard to the Donna Marathon. You should have received in your packet some background information. For many of you, and I know at least in my experience as well, the city's always been a participant with the Donna Marathon as it's originated in other neighboring venues, but still come through the city of Jacksonville Beach. A couple of weeks ago, city staff was approached by representatives for the Donna Foundation, asking if we would actually be the host, the originating and ending location for the Sunday run events. That would mean that they would do a setup probably late Friday and early Saturday morning in preparation for the racers to actually begin in downtown by Seawalk Pavilion and Latham Plaza. They would do both the half marathon and the marathon events, including Neptune and Atlantic Beach to the north, Ponte Vedra to the south, and then again ending in downtown Jacksonville Beach. Knowing that this was something that never happened in the past in terms of the origination being in our community, we thought it would be a good idea to get council input before the representatives for the Donna Foundation actually started the process of applying for a special event permit. We do also have Recreation and Parks Director Jason Fatides on the line as well, if there are any questions that you need to ask of him. And we've also included the proposed flyer that was put together by the Donna Foundation, with this being the 15th anniversary of the Donna Marathon run. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any comments from council. And I see Councilor Golding, followed by Councilor Meza.
I would just, I think it's a great idea personally. I think we've got a great venue for that. But just want to ask if Parks and Rec or our police department have any concerns at all that we as a council would need to know about before we, gave our blessing for the event.
I'm not sure if Jason wants to chime in on this, but we did have a preliminary meeting with both Jason and Chief Smith present. Again, given the fact that the run comes through the city of Jacksonville Beach, that weekend is already blocked off on our calendars as far as special events go. The police department was already planning on having a contingent of officers around the route on First Street, going north and south through the community. So there would be an enhanced presence that we would have to have specifically for the Runners Village, where all the tents are set up in downtown. But as far as actually managing the race, it would not be a tremendous increase over what we do on an annual basis. So as the chief indicated, he would make it work, and he doesn't think it would be a big problem. And as Jason indicated, once they fill out the special event paperwork, that would give us a better idea of what additional resources may be needed based on the setup that they're proposing. Obviously, JFRD will have rescue units and emergency personnel at certain locations in case there are any injuries or accidents with regards to runners. And we go from there once the special event paperwork is filed. Jason, is there anything you wanted to add? I saw that you took yourself off of mute there for a second.
No, sir, I think you covered it adequately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would just say this is a fantastic event. I've participated in it as a runner, and it's just a wonderful event. And if our residents have an opportunity to be able to join in and, like in years past, Atlantic Beach has done an amazing job of cheering the runners on, and I'd love to see Jack's Beach residents have that opportunity too. I would be in full support of it.
Thank you. Councilor Meza, followed by Mayor.
Next question. Didn't they reach out to the city a few years ago about hosting it? I can't remember if I heard through the grapevines or not. I just want to know what happened, if it was turned down, or why it was turned down.
My understanding is that the city of Jacksonville Beach hosting the event is something that has come on and off over a number of years. I did find some internal documentation going back to 2017. I can't speak as to why it never actually occurred in the community, but we have the opportunity now, and they're making the ask of us, and we're here to discuss whether or not it's the right thing to do going forward. Mayor Pro Tem Nichols, followed by Mayor Hoffman.
Let's try it one more time. There we go. No, I agree. It's a great event and it's a great cause and everything. Personally, a little bit of my concern is that this is in February of next year, I believe. When is the mayoral election? Because Donna is getting very political and she definitely leans very hard in one direction. And I don't mind it going through it, but if it's really close to the election, I'm just concerned that it's I don't know. I think there's people in our community that politically aren't really aligned with her, and the more she becomes political, the more I think it negatively impacts this great event.
I do not know when the mayoral election for Jacksonville is held. That's certainly something we can check on. I'm not sure if any of the other council members know that date.
It would be 2023.
March of 2023.
Okay. So a full year in advance.
So I'm a little bit better with it, I suppose, but it's yeah, if it was definitely like, a couple weeks before the election, I think it would, I don't know, it could be beneficial to her from a political standpoint, which I wouldn't think would be fair to other candidates.
Gotcha. Mayor Hoffman.
Well, just to address that, I think she knows to be very careful about aligning her political stance with her nonprofit, because that could violate their federal tax exemption. And I think that breast cancer crosses parties, certainly crosses socioeconomic and race and everything like that. So I would hope that that wouldn't be something that would prevent us from supporting it, because I think that she is smart enough to rise above politics in order to work on this mission, since she started it long before she was ever involved in politics. But I will say I'm very much in support of this event. It's going to go all the way through our city anyway. And so to house the start and finish line, I think would be a really great addition. Fernando, my understanding, I wasn't in the room for that meeting, but when they were moving the footprint of the event at that time and they were looking at the beaches, there were still a lot of unknowns, such as traffic and parking. And now that it's been in Neptune Beach and predominantly in the Atlantic Beach area for 2 years, that's a lot more known. So I think if it can fit in that little tiny area, it's going to be great in our space. The one additional piece of information that I just got today, and they're still trying to sort it out, is that apparently the Super Bowl is going to be moving to a week later in February. So they may see about kind of flipping the dates. So they're working on, they've reached out to our special events department. I don't even know if Jason knows this yet, but they are trying to figure out all the interested parties and venues to make sure that they can just kind of flip flop the dates. Not germane to this conversation. I just didn't want you to be surprised if you heard that at a later time.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Meza, followed by Councilor Golding.
I'm in support of this. I have many friends that have survived breast cancer, and I think it's a great cause. Logistically speaking, do we know where the beginning, the start is going to be? Is it going to be Latham Plaza? Just logistically for the businesses as well. Just want to make sure that we're thinking ahead if we do go forward, that it doesn't affect the businesses that are in the vicinity. And obviously with parking, yeah, that's just what I was thinking right now.
If you take a look at the PDF document that we sent on this particular item, the last 2 pages are a 2-sided flyer that the Donna Foundation put together as a draft. It shows that the starting run would basically occur on First between Seawalk Pavilion and Latham Plaza. They did also have the finish for the race actually going up towards, I think that's around 4th Street, and then coming down the boardwalk over by the pier parking lot. We've effectively told them that that ending route would have to be modified because of the construction that's currently ongoing at the pier and the construction that will be ongoing for the Spring Hill Suites Hotel on the former Pier Cantina site. So the last thing we want to do is have runners potentially trying to traverse through a construction zone. But the objective is to have it both start and end in the area of the Seawalk Pavilion. Mayor Hoffman, I see your hand is still up. I think that's a carryover.
Sorry, I just forgot to put it down.
No, that's okay. Councilor Golding?
To Councilman Mays's question, having participated in the event when it was held in Neptune Beach, they did a great job of shuttling people. I mean, you know, if you've been to the Beaches Town Center, that's a pretty small area, not a lot of parking there, definitely not near as much as what we have in Jax Beach. And they did a really great job of shuttling people to the race start and the race finish. And I have to give them a lot of credit. They were very creative in how they handled the start and the finish in that really small space. So I think that Latham Plaza and the Seawalk Pavilion could be absolutely amazing for the start and finish. Definitely a lot of space for the Runners Village, and I think it could be a really great event held, you know, centered around Latham Plaza and the Seawalk Pavilion. So, you know, like I said, I definitely support this. And the organization has done a lot towards helping women with breast cancer. So I definitely hope that we will host the event. I think it'd be great.
So it sounds like there's a consensus by council that the Donna Foundation should go ahead and submit their special event permit applications for that weekend. And we'll see where we go from there with regards to resource requirements or deployment. And we'll keep you informed as to what the shape of this event looks like as it goes through the next several months leading up to the February date. So Jason, I think you've got your direction for how to proceed on this item.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
The next item that I'd like to backtrack to is US Bicycle Route 1. Hopefully you were able to take a look at that memo and potentially click on the links so you could see what the proposed US Bicycle Route 1 is. The city was contacted by a representative for Adventure Cycling Association who is working with the Florida Department of Transportation, Bike Florida, and other groups to try and get the establishment of US Bicycle Route 1 through the state of Florida, effectively starting at the Georgia border and ending at Key West. At this time, the request that was being asked of us as a city was to send communication to the FDOT and other state or governmental agencies in support of the proposed route. We figured we'd see where council sits with this before we went ahead and submitted support behind it. But given the fact that bicycle transportation within the city of Jacksonville Beach was something that was a very high priority for its residents, and being able to safely traverse through the community, it's probably something that we we thought you all might support, but we wanted to have the conversation first. If you take a look through our community, for the most part, the route that they show is traveling down first, which is an area where we've already have sharrows and designated bicycle paths in that particular area. So there wouldn't be too much for us to do for an eventual future support of this route, other than at this point, just send in probably an email or a letter to the DOT in support. So with that, I'd open it up to any thoughts or comments from City Council on this particular item. And I see Mayor Pro Tem Nichols, followed by Councilor Meza.
I love it, completely in favor of it, and think we need to do whatever we can to increase bicycle activities throughout our community. I think it's a great program.
Fantastic. Councilor Meza?
I'm totally in love with the idea of it. As a just bought a road bike a few months ago, picked up that hobby, and this is pretty much the route that I take when I go to Michler's Beach. Confused how you pronounce it, but I love this. I'm in full support of it. I'm pretty excited about this.
Excellent. Councilor Golding?
I would be in support of this as well. My running route is usually along First Street in Jack's Beach, as well as Neptune Beach and Atlantic Beach. I jog over closer to the ocean, but I see a lot of bicyclists using that route, so I think it's definitely an appropriate route for that bicycle route. So I would support it.
Excellent. Councilor Stokes?
I think it's great. It fits in with what we're trying to do. Just wanted to call to the last two sentences in the background, Mike, that it's separate from the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Just want to make sure there's no confliction, I guess, there between this and the Greenway. It just, those last two sentences, I guess maybe I got a little confused with throwing that in there.
And there's a reason for putting that in there, and I'm glad that Jason is still on the line, because I think he may be able to chime in if I get this wrong. But my understanding is that the East Coast Greenway, which is a proposed bicycle route from Maine all the way down to the Florida Keys, has different criteria associated with it. And in particular, one of the things that they are pushing for is a bicycle only pathway to get from point A to point B along that route. So whereas the US bicycle route 1 can and should be shared between bicycles and vehicles, the East Coast Greenway is seeking to identify bicycles only and specific routes for them to take. One of the concerns they have with the East Coast Greenway as it comes through the city of Jacksonville Beach is that a logical route for us would be to have those bicycles come down first. But their preference is that bicycles and vehicles not share the same roadway. So there's even been some consideration that rather than come through Jacksonville Beach or some of the beach communities, that it would actually bump out to a route on the west side of the ditch and then ultimately tuck back in somewhere and continue on further south of our service area. So they are two discrete and different things, and they have different criteria for the establishment of their routes. This in particular is one through DOT, US Bicycle Route 1, and we think this one makes some sense to support. And Councilor Dumont.
Thank you. I support it. The only issue I see is by FDOT and Florida rules and laws, bikes have to travel in the same direction as cars. Ocean Drive South is south one way. So in the north part of, if they're going north on the route, they have to go left on 37th and then right on First Street going north, because that First Street's a north only. Ocean Drive is a south only.
Good observation. Thank you. Any other comments from council on this item? If not, we will submit our support for this item, and we will also keep in mind the issue of vehicles and bikes traveling in the same direction, because you're right, that is pretty bad when a bike and a vehicle are going in opposite directions and then some type of an accident occurs. So it is encouraged they travel with the flow of traffic. With that being said, we'll move to our last item of the night. And this is the one that I think may end up taking us the longest. It's with regards to the name for the city of Jacksonville Beach. When we started our review of the city charter and we got to section 1, it was noted that section 1 is where there is effectively a proclamation or statement of the city's name. And over the past 6+ months, the council has had some side conversations during our meetings and briefings about whether or not the city should consider changing its name. So this item is being placed on a briefing for the 7 of you to effectively have some conversations to see, is this something you want to explore? If so, what is the right method in which to go around doing it? And what is it that you would like staff to do to support whatever you decide on this item? So with that, I'd like to open the floor to whoever wants to make the first comment regarding this item. Councilor Meza.
If we were to all come into a consensus of changing the name, or what financial impact will this have on the city of Jacksonville Beach?
We do not know the financial impact, but I did reach out to the Florida League of Cities to find out if there have been any recent cities that have changed their name. And sure enough, just about 3 or so years ago, 3 or 4 years, the city of Lake Worth changed their name to the city of Lake Worth Beach. So that at least gives us an opportunity to reach out to that community and see what the fiscal impact was of changing their name from A to B. But at this point in time, we've not done that until we've gotten some direction from council as to how you want to proceed.
Now, if on the name change, obviously with the street signs on the highway, on 95, on JTB, now does that come out of Jack's Beach, or is that a FDOT budget?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Councilor
Can I
Stokes?
just let me jump in and answer his question real quick. If you look at the signs, it says Jacksonville's beaches. So it's the beaches of Jacksonville. It doesn't say Jacksonville Beach. There's an S after Jacksonville. So that those signs would not need to be changed.
The water tank might be a different story. Councilor Stokes, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Nichols.
2 thoughts. The one that you gave us in the background where City of St. Petersburg Beach just changed to City of St. Pete Beach. I mean, that's a minor change, right? It's just the burg basically on St. Petersburg being dropped. And then that one where it's like City of Lake Worth and then City of Lake Worth Beach, it's just adding beach. If we were like Jacksonville Coast and we wanted to go to Jacksonville Beach, I could see a thought for a name change, but personally myself, I don't see a reason to go through all of this, especially with all that we have. We already have a pretty full slate of charter revisions that will be hitting the ballot. I don't see the need to put a name change on there as well. I did some slight research and just kind of Googled name changes. And I mean, between Florida and Georgia, they all happened in like the 1800s from what I could find. So I don't think to be changing a name in the 2020s, like, you know, 200, almost 200 years later, 150, 200 years later, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, in Florida, you know, the biggest one is Calford becoming Jacksonville in 1822. So I don't know. I just don't personally see, you know, the need to go through it all. I can understand the argument, but for me personally, I'm fine with us being Jacksonville Beach. It's, you know, I wish we could have some separation like Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach and Ponte Vedra Beach, but you know, we've got enough on our plate, I think, than to bring up changing from Jacksonville Beach to something else. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. Mayor Pro Tem Nichols, followed by Mayor Hoffman.
Just to reflect on what Chet said, I mean, I believe Jacksonville Beach has actually changed its name twice in the 1900s. So that was one part of that. But I mean, I know that was a long time ago, and it was different to change it back at that time. I'd be interested in the financial impacts of changing it. I'm open to taking a look at it and see what the options are. I mean, I've had a lot of once it started getting out in the public, I had a lot of positive feedback from the public, but I'm fine with taking a step forward and just looking and see what the what the financial impacts potentially are, and see if we can get some comments and maybe do something with the city to see what people's thoughts are, to do some kind of charrette or some other city meeting just to see what people's thoughts were.
Thank you, Mayor Hoffman.
Thank you, Corey, for giving the history lesson that I was about to give. So we became Jacksonville Beach in 1925, so it's been less than 100 years. And the reason our city leaders wanted to do that was to attach us to Jacksonville, which was a bigger, more well-known city. And some would make the argument that you want to stay attached to Jacksonville, but some would make the argument that maybe it's time to seek our own identity instead of being Jacksonville's beach, that we become our own beach. So it doesn't sound like anybody's super strong one way or the other. So I don't think that we would tilt the playing field, but maybe a straw poll or something where we can survey the citizens a little bit and see, one, if there's interest in a name change, and two, if so, which name? Because there's three possibilities in my book of what it could be: Pablo Beach, Ruby Beach, or even just follow St. Petersburg Beach's lead and just go with Jack's Beach, which would solve the water tower issue. So, but then still kind of differentiate us a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. So I don't know if there's any way we could just set up a little poll and distribute that out to the citizens and just get a feel. Because I mean, right now, we're talking to our own spheres of influence, I'm sure, and people are asking us about it. But I'd be interested to see if there's anybody if it leans strongly one way or the other on both counts.
You all like the idea of getting some public input as to where the public sits with regard to pursuing a name change? If so, that's something we could always see if Jacob could do some type of a public survey that we could put out for 7 to 10 days.
I would want it to be a scientific survey. I know you use a straw poll, but it's just going to go out on social media, and those on Facebook will get us, who has the biggest groups will get the sway as to which way the poll goes. And there's no real controlling that. So you could look into finding out how much it would cost just for a telephone survey for the Beaches Energy Jack's Beach customers.
Yeah, we can certainly try to look at ways to pin it down specifically to Jack's Beach residents, as opposed to just getting emails from anyone and everyone across the entire country. That would not be the intent. If you all like that idea of trying to pin it down to Jack's Beach residents and see what their thoughts are on name change. It's a good thing Jacob's on the line because he can hear this firsthand. Mayor Hoffman, your hand is still raised.
I was going to say, just to add on to that, I don't really think we should invest a lot of staff time in terms of figuring out the finances of it until we know it's something, if it's something we're going to pursue, but I'm sure you've already started a list of things that would have to be changed. And if it does go, changing the name to something else in 2025 would be, nice round number, if anybody's into that sort of thing.
The anniversary, nice.
I get you 100 years? Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Okay. Well, this is something that Jacob and I will work on, along with possibly Karen. And when we're ready to put something out, we'll send something to the council so you can have an idea of what's going to go out and how we're going to track it and monitor it, or whether or not we'll actually use a third party to administer it in order to make sure that we are getting true representation of the community and not people inside of it. All right, that sounds like a good way to go. That is the fourth item, and that's everything we had on the briefing for tonight. So with that, I thank you all for your time.
Committee reports and future council.
Thank you. Any committee assignment reports that anyone wants to make? I see Councilor Stokes.
All right, I've got a committee report and then a possible future briefing topic. So bear with me for like 2 minutes, maybe more. Blue Zones put out their executive summary. Maybe a couple weeks back. We haven't had like a briefing to be able to discuss it. So it's been a while since we actually had a moment to kind of throw it out there. But if you go to their website, bluezones.com, you can find the Blue Zones Jacksonville Assessment Readiness and Feasibility Report. I'm not going to go through the whole report. It's 250 pages. So I figure if you want to, I went through it, but if you want to go through it, it's on there. A few highlights is that, we are a strong candidate for this. They identified a lot of policy topics, a lot of things to change. Councilmember Dumont spoke on healthcare, I believe it was. So very good stuff in there. I think the worst part about it is they got me as a Atlantic Beach City Council person. So good job on them. At least they got my name right. I'll give them that, but they got the city wrong. So close enough. Not really, but yeah. So if you want to go through, there's some really interesting legislative stuff. A lot of the stuff that we're trying to do that we talked about in our strategic plan between sustainability, environmental stewardship, healthier lifestyle stuff, all that kind of stuff is really in line with this. And they found that a lot of, our individual initiatives throughout the city align with Blue Zones. So I think there is some, in the coming months here, going to be some more stuff happening along that lines. Second, I have a sustainability project that might be good for a future briefing. It was brought to me by a citizen concerned with trash in waterways, and specifically in the South End CRA zone. So this could be a project that just kicked the CRA, which would be great because then we don't have to invest the financial part of it, but it does go to other areas of the city because a lot of the city is surrounded by water. But it's a trash, and I have a PowerPoint that I'll distribute after the meeting if Mike sees it fit for distribution to everybody, showing more explanation of what I'm talking about. But it is a garbage dump cover. So that way, when the trash doesn't blow out, doesn't spill out of these open garbage containers, the big ones that you see at Target, Petco, all those kind of places. Their covers, it actually was adopted by, give me 1 second, the city of Santee, California. Adopted these as part of their sustainability initiative and environmental stewardship initiatives. So possibly one to look forward to there, possibly put that on the docket. It's tough to explain without visual representation, so maybe we revisit it next week, but just wanted to throw it out there. I actually have the PowerPoint. I don't know if I can share it on here. I think we'll just look at it later because I don't know how to do that. So, thank you.
Is that all something you would like a future presentation on, the technology that Chet's referring to keep trash from blowing out of trash cans? I see some nods.
It'll make more sense when you see it. I don't know how to explain it. So I'll send the PowerPoint. Hopefully it's very brief. It's just some pictures. So.
Well, it's a good thing Dennis isn't here because I'll assign that to him. Councilmember Jansen.
Just real quick, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm just going to give you the Super Reader's Digest. We had a pension meeting, my first pension meeting. Pension's well funded. We're still in the high 80 percentile. We have over $113 million in investments. In fact, our investments went over what's allowed by federal law, so we kind of have to dial back a few percents. And so we're doing really, really well overall. It was the meeting went very well. There was a consensus amongst everybody.
Excellent. Mayor Hoffman.
I just want to clarify that. I think we're over on our asset allocation to equities, just to clarify that. I can't remember if we've had a briefing since our last downtown business owner meeting, but we had our May meeting at Jack's Spice, which has relatively new ownership, and they put out a nice spread of food, which was great. Second lunch. And Jason Fatides actually spoke on behalf of the special events department, just to talk about the different types of events that we have, such as the city sponsored events and the third party events, and just to give a preview of some of the events coming up, like the Seawalk Music Festival that we had this past weekend, and things like that. So our next meeting is going to be, I think it's June 29th, and we are going to have Karina Saladino, who's the executive director of the Mission House, come to talk about what Mission House does, programs that they have to offer, and a little bit of an overview of our homeless and vagrancy here in the Beaches area, and to give them kind of a point of contact with Mission House.
Excellent. Any other report outs or proposed items by council? Well, I would like to just give a quick report out that we had 4 elected officials and myself attend the Florida League of Cities Policy Committee meetings on Friday. That meant we had four representatives out of 5 policy committees offered, which is darn good representation for the city of Jacksonville Beach. We even heard some comments in our municipal administration committee that they were very pleased to see multiple people from North Florida in attendance at that particular policy committee. So I'd like to say thank you to the council for being a part of those policy committees and helping set the tone and the items of importance for the Florida League of Cities for the upcoming year. I think this community has a lot that it can offer and provide input on those topics, and Jacksonville Beach should have a prominent seat at the table in those conversations. Mayor Pro Tem Nichols.
No, I agree. I think that was a great meeting. It was nice seeing you down there. I did run into, in a future meeting, if we get around to going in this direction, I had a talk with the mayor of town of Davie, Florida, and they made a transition from a CRA separate committee to it becoming the city council. And then they actually had members of members that they pulled back from it. So it was one group. So I think they have 2 residents that, in addition to the city council, that are on theirs, and they've had an extremely positive, they've been able to get a lot done with the new format, and they were very, they think their transition was incredibly positive for the city. So if we ever start going in that direction and having that conversation, I think there's some hybrid ways that we could do it that could appease, keep some of the people that are involved that are on the on it and allow us to move forward quicker. But I just thought that was interesting. She said she was going to send me the resolution that they used and everything. And she worked very, very closely with Carol Westmoreland, who is the CRA guru in Florida before she retired, on doing that a couple of years ago. But I'll forward anything I get to you, Mike, for you to just have it on file.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Golding?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I talked with Mike about this and I thought it might be good to share this with the rest of the council. I keep checking in to get updates on the Pimmon Road study and find out what the status is on that. And the last update I got, they still haven't finalized the contract yet, which is taking forever. But one of the comments that was made, because I asked about the timeline on, once the contractor can get started with the Pimmon Road study, what the timeline would be, and when there would be an opportunity for community input. And the response I got was that the community input would be scheduled for when the design was done. And I talked with Fred Jones, who's the Neptune Beach City Council person, who's also, he's kind of like my counterpart on this as far as the Neptune Beach side of things. And we both agreed that there needs to be an opportunity for community input at the beginning, not at the end. And I talked to Mike about it. Mike agreed. Mike also, thanks to the fact that we were all at the League of Cities Policy Committee meetings, Stephen Wynn was there too. And so Mike and Stephen had the opportunity to talk. And they both agreed that, yes, we need to have community input at the beginning. So we have points of contact in Jacksonville Beach, the city, and also Neptune Beach. And my understanding is that both of those people will be pushing for a community input meeting at the beginning. But just wanted to let you as council members know this, because if you have any opportunities to talk with anybody with the city of Jacksonville and anything comes up about the Pimmon Road study, that you can be saying the same thing. We can all, say the same thing, because I think it's important that we have the community input at the beginning.
Sandy,
Mike,
I'm
do
meeting
you
with,
want to share anything about your thoughts on that too? Because I thought you had some good comments about that.
Sandy, I'm meeting with the city tomorrow. I'll definitely bring that up. Thank you.
Okay, I see no more hands raised. So I think that covers our full agenda for the night. One last reminder, you should all have on your calendars the invitations to participate in the interviews for city attorney on Wednesday. I will be placing an item on next Monday's regular council meeting for the city council to determine how to move forward post-interview. So if there are multiple candidates that you would like to bring in for final interviews at that time, you'll be able to make the appropriate motion and bring those candidates forward. If you'd like to give us other direction, you can obviously modify the motion accordingly. But this is just to let you know that it's our intention to put that on for next Monday. So that will give you several days in the weekend to think about the candidates that you interviewed on Wednesday and how you want to proceed forward with that information. And Councilor Dumont.
Thanks, Mike. I was on a call today and they asked, are the city attorney interviews, our part on Wednesday going to be on Zoom?
I believe Jacob is still on, so I'd have to ask him. I believe they are Zoom and not Ring Central.
Yep.
So it's going to be
They're all on-
live.
They're all on Zoom and they've all been, the public has been noticed on our website, the public links for each
Alright.
one to view on Zoom.
Okay, so, and that was another thing. You sent a different link for every individual instead of one link for all of the interviews.
Correct.
And so the public will have to bop in and out of all of the interviews.
Yep.
And that's clearly noted.
Yep. There's a table with the times and the person being interviewed on the notices. And the link
Okay.
is different for each one, which I know is a little confusing, but we went around in circles trying to figure out the best way, and that's what we landed on.
Can I just ask why you didn't just do one and you leave them in the waiting room until you're ready to bring them in? That's what we normally do, just to make our lives easier when we're hiring.
We didn't know if it was going to work to leave the meeting running for 8 hours
Ah,
or to
okay.
start it and end it, because we're going to be meeting across the whole thing. And then for the sake of publishing the videos to YouTube, which we learned later, we don't publish the videos to YouTube, but we learned that after the fact of setting up the links. I guess interviews don't go on YouTube as a normal practice, but they are
Okay.
live on Zoom.
All right, thank you.
And I'll look into everybody's emails. I don't know if I need to get with our IT department or what to make sure that you're all getting the emails, because it seems like about half of you did not get any emails for tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Counselor Golding?
So if the interviews are not going to go up on YouTube, for any of our council members that may not be able to make it, how are they going to be, or for any of us who might want to go back and review interviews, is there going to be a way for the council members?
They are recorded, and I might have been speaking out of my place. I'm not, I originally thought they would just be published to YouTube, but I don't know if it is the human resources policy or the clerk's office policy that they are not generally published to YouTube, but they are public record and we will have them recorded, and there will be, oh, that's all I know. I shouldn't say things I don't know.
So maybe there would be a way to share them with the council members so we can at least have access to them if we want to go back and look at them again.
We can, yep, we can make that work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and now I think our meeting for the evening is ended. Everybody have a great rest of the week. Good luck on Wednesday, and we'll see you all in person next Monday night at 6 o'clock. Have a good evening.